In Brazil, representatives of numerous organizations rejected in the Senate initiatives by President Jair Bolsonaro to weaken the electoral system. Also in Kansas, one of the most conservative states in the United States, where people overwhelmingly voted in favor of keeping abortion legal. Chinese authorities took a series of measures against Taiwan and will no longer export sand, a key element for the production of microchips and semiconductors. From the headquarters of TeleSUR English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South. I'm your anchor, Gladys Quesada, and these are the news. A few weeks to go to the first round of the presidential elections in Brazil, representatives of numerous organizations rejected in the Senate initiatives by President Jair Bolsonaro to weaken the electoral system. The representatives of labor, social and popular organizations have joined the efforts to prevent the actions carried out by the candidate for re-election by the extreme right to prevent a proper electoral process. Raimundo Bonfim, the coordinator of the popular movements, warned about a possible defiant challenge to the highest electoral body, which could take place in Sao Paulo next August 11th, when the incumbent will be reading a letter in defense of the rule of law addressed to all Brazilians. The representatives of different organizations attended the meetings, said that unity will be the great defense of democracy, and ratified that they will maintain the streets to guarantee the October 2nd process. Sergio Nobre, representative of the Central Workers Union, said the people will do the job that the legislative power has failed to do to defend the nation. Brazil's former president and the candidate of the Workers' Party, PT, Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, visits the Campina Grande village in the state of Paraíba as part of his campaign program. The campaign meeting of the coalition Vamos Juntos por Brasil, held at the Parque do Povo, counted with the participation of the candidate for Senator of Paraíba for the PT, Ricardo Coutinho, and Veneciano Vital do Rego for the Brazilian Democratic Movement, who is running for the government of the state. The visit is part of a national tour developed by Lula da Silva to strengthen political alliances in view of the presidential elections of October of this year. United Nations Secretary-General Antonio Guterres addressed the situation that has arisen in Guatemala following the arrest of journalist José Rubén Zamora, who has expressed his concern about the persecution of the press and prosecutors in that country. Guterres said the Guatemalan administration is persecuting journalists and justice officials, and although he did not make any specific reference, it is inferred that he is talking about the actions taken by the public ministry against judges and prosecutors. Guterres said that journalist José Rubén Zamora has played a key role in exposing corruption cases in the country. Zamora, president and founder of El Periódico, the journal, was arrested last Friday on charges of alleged money laundering. According to human rights organizations in Guatemala, the government of President Alejandro Giammattei has initiated a hunt against journalists and prosecutors in order to silence denunciations of corruption scandals. Guatemalan authorities dismantled on Tuesday one of the major structures of illegal trafficking of people to the United States after capturing of 19 people. The head of the prosecutor's office against human trafficking, Stuardo Campo, dismantled group was systematically dedicated to the recruitment, transfer, and accommodation within the national territory of Guatemalan migrants to smuggle them illegally to the United States. Campo assured that the members of the gang charged about $20,000 to each person to take them irregularly to the U.S. territory. On June 27th, 53 migrants were found dead in a trailer in San Antonio, Texas, among them 21 Guatemalans, as well as Mexicans and Hondurans, after being abandoned in high temperatures in the United States. In El Salvador, national authorities and the members of civil protection have been deployed since Tuesday to carry out prevention work in areas affected by the heavy rains, wind gusts, and thunderstorms. In the Darío González community, located in San Salvador, the country's capital, teams have provided information about the tropical wave affecting the territory. As part of the operation, they undertook debris removal and cleanup of the streets and drainage of the sewers. During the last few days, and especially on Tuesday, the late afternoon, there were heavy rains and gusts of winds across the Salvadoran territory, precipitating the end of the celebrations of the festivities known as Fiestas Agostinas, or the August festivities. In Peru, Congressperson Wilmar Helera from Somos Peru has resigned as the third vice president of the Congressional Board after the Unipersonal Criminal Court sentenced him to 6 years in prison for aggravated collusion for his involvement in a project that should have started in May 2012. The sentence, issued by the judge of the 7th Criminal Court, Ronald Soto de Cortés, former Inspector Wilder Mogollón, and the contractor José Luis Cortegana, received the same sentence, and together they must pay a civil reparation to the tune of $1,100,000. The crime is related to the project Improvement and Expansion of the Drinking Water and Sewage Systems of the Pacaypampa, Ayabaca, Piura. Helera, who was repeatedly accused President Pedro Castillo of corruption, has now himself been sentenced for corruption. So he has sent his resignation letter to the Congress President, Lady Camones, who explained that the process will follow in Congress. On Tuesday, Nicaraguan President Daniel Ortega condemned the U.S. interference in other nations' internal affairs at the ceremony commemorating the 43rd anniversary of Nicaragua's Air Force. The Nicaraguan executive denounced Pelosi's visit to Taiwan as a provocation and described it as an act of invasion. President Ortega reaffirmed his country's support for the One China principle and the continued collaboration between both nations in different fields. Ortega assured that a new world order of respect and cooperation among nations is emerging, and a new world order which he believes will guarantee peace and stability for all mankind. Finally, the head of state called on all the actors in his country to continue working together for said new world. We'll take a short break now. Join us again after this. Welcome back to From the South. On Tuesday, there was a historic voting in Kansas, in the U.S., one of the most conservative states in the United States, where people overwhelmingly voted in favor of keeping abortion legal. With more than 90% of the votes counted, there is no room for doubt. 60% of the people voted yes during the primaries to choose the candidates from each party. Therefore, the state has rejected an initiative by the Republican majority in Parliament, which sought to add an amendment to the Constitution, thus clearing the way for legislators to severely restrict reproductive rights. Because of its great symbolic importance, the result of the consultation has sent shockwaves throughout the country, which has split down the middle on this highly controversial issue. The United States Department of State warned American citizens traveling overseas of possible retaliation by Al-Qaeda and its supporters after the organization's leader was killed in a U.S. missile strike. In the worldwide caution update, the department said it believed there is a higher potential for anti-American violence, given the death of Ayman al-Zawahiri. It also stated that information suggested that terrorist organizations continue to plan terrorist attacks against U.S. interests in multiple regions across the globe. According to National Security Council spokesperson John Kirby, Zawahiri was killed in Kabul, the Afghan capital, when he stepped out onto the balcony of his residence and a drone fired Hellfire missiles. And according to Statistics Canada data, the rate of police-reported sexual assault in the country has reached its highest level since 1996. There were more than 34,000 reports of sexual assaults countrywide in 2021, an 80% increase from 2020, according to the newly released numbers. While reports decreased in 2020, the rate of sexual assault has otherwise steadily increased for 5 years. Despite an increase in public discussions of issues around sexual violence, the organization said the number of sexual assaults reported to police is still likely to be significant underestimate. The agency stated that sexual assaults accounted for a third of an overall 5% increase in reports of violent crimes, with homicides, criminal harassment, hate crimes, and firearm offenses. And Turkey confirmed the first shipment of Ukrainian grain has arrived off the Middle East country's coast. The Sierra Leone-flagged cargo ship Rozhony is on its way from the Ukrainian port of Odessa to Lebanon with more than 26,000 tons of corn on board. But its first stop is Istanbul, where personnel from a special joint coordination center inspected the ship to make sure it is not carrying weapons or other non-food items under the terms of an agreement reached in late July to resume Ukrainian grain exports amid a global food crisis. The center included officials from Ukraine, Russia, Turkey, and the United Nations, the 4 parties involved in brokering the deal. And allegations of sexual abuse reported by former female guards in Israeli prisons shook the country and opened a confrontation between the president and the prime minister. This time, another former guard at Gilboa prison came forward to describe how she was allegedly sexually assaulted by a Palestinian security prisoner during her tenure as the maximum security facility, with knowledge from her superiors of what was happening. The woman spoke to a state channel on Tuesday under the pseudonym Shirley and backed up claims from other female guards that daily life at the Gilboa prison was largely dictated by prisoner Mahmoud Atallah. He was being in solitary confinement since 2018, when reports first came to light that an intelligence officer at the prison sent female guards to him and to other Palestinian inmates at his request. Thousands attended on Tuesday a vigil in Goma, the capital of the North Kivu province in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, to pay respect to the 36 people killed during demonstrations last week. Carrying candles, singing and displaying a Congolese flag on the floor, members of the different social organizations and movements, and also politicians remembered those who died in the last few days during protests against MONUSCO, the United Nations mission in the country. The group has demanded justice to be applied in and outside Congo against those who killed the protesters. Meanwhile, the government is reassessing the presence of the UN peacekeepers after the protests against the force in the country. Demonstrations escalated after the UN peacekeepers opened fire on civilians, killing 3 in Kazindi and the eastern border post with Uganda earlier this week. Now we move on to other topics. The Garonne River in Toulouse, France, has shrunk to very low water levels as the country braces and gazes the hottest day on the 3rd recorded heat wave since June. Between restrictions and concerns, France recorded temperatures reaching up to 40 degrees Celsius in the southwest and a drought is more marked. According to the nation's meteorological service, Metro France, Wednesday was the hottest day on a national scale, but the heat peak will still be present on Thursday. The temperatures during these couple of days will be higher than or equal to 35 degrees Celsius, with peaks of 39 or 40. As a result, the French government placed 26 departments on orange heat wave alert. The meteorological service also said this heat wave will be shorter than the previous one that lasted 14 days. And we have more news coming up after a final short break, so stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. Cambodia's government is hosting high-level summits and the meetings of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations in Phnom Penh, as the bloc is affected by a host of regional and global challenges. The official centerpiece of the program is the 55th Asian Foreign Ministers meeting, which gathered 9 of the 10 Asian member states with the exclusion of Myanmar. The summit focused largely on regional and global crises, including the military junta in Myanmar, which last week executed 4 political prisoners. Foreign Minister also discussed the promotion of regional and international cooperation on a range of issues, from revitalizing economic activity after the COVID-19 crisis to ensuring food security and efforts to limit carbon emissions and advance energy security. And the situation created as a result of United States Congresswoman Nancy Pelosi's visit to the island of Taiwan, from where she left just a few moments ago, has strong repercussions at a world level. A few hours ago, the Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi described the trip as a farce and assured that there will be consequences. From Phnom Penh, the capital of Cambodia, where he is attending the meeting of foreign ministers of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, the head of the Chinese diplomacy and the State Councilor Wang Yi said that the visit of the Speaker of the U.S. House of Representatives is a very dangerous game. Yi criticized the Taiwanese authorities headed by President Tsai Ing-wen for seeking protection from the U.S. while disregarding China's justice system. The Asian giant took a series of measures against the Taiwanese authorities and will no longer export sand, a key element for the production of microchips and semiconductors. The Chinese foreign minister assured the actions committed by Washington's and Taiwan's president will have consequences.
I would like to tell you that this is a complete farce. The United States violating China's sovereignty under the guise of so-called democracy. Some Taiwanese politicians, represented by Tsai Ing-wen, are sticking to the strong arm of the United States and denying national justice. This perverse action will not change the international consensus on the One China principle, nor the historical trend that will bring Taiwan back to the homeland. Those who play with fire will not come to a good end, and those who offend China will be punished.
United States Congressperson Nancy Pelosi left the island on Taiwan and headed to Seoul, the South Korean capital. At 6 p.m. local time, the U.S. plane carrying several legislators on a tour of the Asian continent departed from Songshan Airport in Taipei. The delegation bid farewell in a sober ceremony preceded by a protocol session in which the president of Taiwan, Tsai Ing-wen, awarded Congressperson Nancy Pelosi for her support towards the island. The visit, which for some people has an election-related character ahead of the midterm elections in the U.S., has crossed all the red lines for Beijing. China's Communist Party's work office in Taiwan denounced on Tuesday the Democratic Progressive Party's separatist actions and collusion with the United States. The work office denounced in a written statement the visit to Taiwan by the Speaker of the U.S. House of Representatives, Nancy Pelosi, and considers it as a move of egregious nature with serious consequences. The statement also stresses that the visit gravely infringes on China's sovereignty and the territorial integrity, severely violates the One China principle and the 3 China-U.S. joint communiques, seriously tramples on international law and the basic norms governing international relations, breaks the serious political commitment the United States has made to China, and sends a seriously wrong signal to forces seeking Taiwan's independence. Pelosi started an official tour around Asia on Monday with a visit to Singapore and Malaysia, and is expected to include also South Korea and Japan. TeleSUR English continues to grow. Its signal now reaches Europe. You can order it from your cable dealer or tune it yourself. These parameters that you see on the screen are in place since July 1st. Quite soon further changes will be implemented for the signals in the Middle East and Africa. Now more than ever, the world connects to us and our stories are heard in other farther away nations. This news multi-platform will continue providing truthful content to oppose the hegemonic media's narrative and our faithfulness to our audience. And we have come to the end of this news brief. But remember, you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also, if you feel so inclined, please join us on social media for all the latest news. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Telegram. For Telesur English, I'm your anchor, Gladys Quesada. Thank you for watching.